Watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Welcome back to the Final Ghouls of Horror. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Holly.
And I'm Elle.
We're three people who love horror and are coming at it from different perspectives of who we are, as well as very different levels of experience with the genre, which we're always excited to talk about. And this week we're collecting jack-o'-lanterns and following all the rules of the season, because we don't want to die, as we take a look at the 2009 horror anthology, Trick or Treat.
Wait, you're supposed to keep it lit.
Why?
Ancient tradition?
During the spookiest time of the year, there are a few guidelines all ghosts and goblins should follow.
All these traditions, putting on costumes, jack-o'-lanterns, they were started to protect us, but nowadays, no one really cares. This is the one night that the dead roam free. Happy Halloween.
So, Holly, what is your history with Trick or Treat? If I remember correctly, you've seen this one before, right?
I only watched it last year, though.
Okay.
I knew it existed. I think I had the completely wrong idea of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was really an anthology movie. I just remember when I first took my kids trick-or-treating, well, they were, I don't know, when was COVID? 50 years ago?
Certainly feels like it at this point.
It still is.
That's when we were going around my parents' neighborhood, because they have rich people neighborhood. It's really good for trick-or-treating. And there's this house that always goes all out. And that year they were doing trick-or-treat was their theme. And everybody there, because it's a group of teenagers / young adults, and they were all dressed as Sam.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, so I know this movie exists, but so I thought it was some weird, there were multiple of this character, and maybe it's a weird zombie thing. I don't know. Because it was hard to tell from what they were doing. They had the strobe lights going, and they had music and stuff, and they were just slowly walking around, and then they stopped as soon as we showed up, because I remember the girl was like, "Hello, tiny and easily frightened children." And
right.
They turned everything down at that point.
Nice.
But yeah, so I decided last year to check it out, because I try to fill in gaps in my horror history each Halloween, major gaps, and I've heard a lot of people talking about Trick or Treat. So.
Mm-hmm. Right on. And Elle, this is a new watch for you, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Were you familiar with it before this at all? Had you heard of it?
I am vaguely familiar with the concept of trick-or-treating.
Okay.
But that is about as close as I got.
Fair enough.
Right, you live in Australia.
Yep, and we'll get into that part.
Yeah, I know it's subtle. I haven't exactly, been the most forthcoming with it over previous episodes. So
wait,
I'm sorry that you have to find out this way.
Are you saying you live in Australia?
Yeah, not if I can help it, but yeah.
Wow, shocking. Yeah, so Trick or Treat for me, I remember when this movie came out, and I'll talk about this a little bit when we get into the production history, but I remember the long saga for this coming out. I remember hearing about it, generating a lot of buzz, and being very excited for it, and then waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, when I got a chance to see it, like I saw it, I believe as soon as it became available, and instantly fell in love with it. This is a yearly Halloween watch for me. I just adore it. Everything about it I think is great. So yeah, I've been very familiar with it for a while. So we are very much in this season at the time that this episode is being released, assuming I actually edit this stuff properly. So let's
You edit
talk.
this?
Somebody does. I try to do it much more than I actually end up doing it, but yeah. Listen, it only took me 4 weeks to get the companion episode out. Anyways,
I think of it as we have like a little invisible goblin that edits these things for us. And they just magically happen.
I wish I would pay that. I would pay that invisible goblin a lot to do it. But yeah, so let's talk spooky season a bit. Whereas for us, Halloween is obviously a fall tradition, lots of brown and orange leaves and things getting cold and stuff. That's not the case for you. It's more of your a spring tradition for you, in as much as it is. What was your Halloween experience like, both growing up and now?
Yeah, it also depends on the year, because we have this lovely El Nino effect that also comes out to your side of the pond, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So some years, yeah, it's spring. It's not too bad. Some other years, it's like, it's summer. Fuck you.
Fair.
So, yeah, there'd be times where it's like, man, it's like the middle of October and it's already like 30 degrees Celsius, which is 100 and something freedom units. I'm bad at maths.
Right.
So, yeah. Now, imagine going to the effort of a costume in that type of temperature.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair.
Not
Now,
even wearing the costume, going to the effort.
right.
So it, for I think, guess a good reason, didn't really catch on a lot, and even now is like people are doing it because it seems to be the in thing, but it's really an effort. It's an uphill battle, even for the people who like it.
That's fair. Do you do anything around it at all? Like,
So, funny story, and this is going to open up weirdly.
okay.
My brother is a prick. So when we were younger, he was like, "Oh, we should each pick a movie to represent a holiday that we can watch every year." I go first. I picked The Grinch That Stole Christmas. It's like one breath, all of that. It's like, well, what other holidays have we got, man? Like, I'll put on the Queen's Birthday movie. But at that time, they were actually showing the Halloween tree on Cartoon Network.
Mm-hmm.
The Ray Bradbury one, I guess, the animated one.
Right.
So I was like, well, I guess I'll take that. But I made an effort each year to watch that as long as I could find it, because it didn't get enough traction, so it didn't really get a lot of reruns.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like 2 or 3 years after starting this tradition, I was like to my parents, can we go trick or treating? And they're like, well, no one does that, but I guess we'll ask around. And turns out they'd gone and bought like a couple of bags of like sweets for me and my brother to give to the next door neighbor so that we could go and trick or treat at their house and just get the sweets that they bought for us. It's like, oh yeah, this was a this was massive. Usually in the TV shows and things, they only get like a couple of pieces. Let's go to the next house. And they're like, no, that's fine. You got plenty.
That is honestly kind of adorable. I'm not going to lie.
And I mean, mostly now it like Halloween is I get to try and win a gift card at work.
Fair enough.
It's not really a thing, unfortunately. Sorry.
No, that's fair. No, that is absolutely fair. And I know, listen, I always sort of, my shoulders start bunching when I hear people call it's such an American holiday because its roots are not in fucking America. But I understand that a lot of the culture of it revolves around like how it developed in America. So I absolutely get that. And it's not one that is celebrated the same way around the world. So that is absolutely fair.
In terms of holidays, I will have more to go off about when we get closer to Christmas. Because if I had problems with Halloween in Australia, oh boy.
Ooh, I'm excited for that.
There's some sizzle for you.
Nice. Holly, how about you? How big was Halloween for you growing up? Did you have like big family traditions, Halloween parties, the teenage, any of that kind of stuff?
Do we have all day?
Okay.
It's like I'm gonna try to sum stuff up.
No,
There's
fair,
a
yeah.
lot. So
No
okay, so
worries.
you know how like you're watching a Halloween movie, that's something like, let's say Hocus Pocus or something, where the kids are trick or treating,
Right.
and you're like, wow, like look at no neighborhood looks like this. It's all done up, and everybody's out on the streets at all hours. That was my neighborhood growing up.
Okay.
And like
Nice.
beyond that, I'm gonna lead up to something, but beyond that, and I've mentioned this to you before. My church growing up used to have the best Halloween party.
Mm-hmm.
And the youth got to just go crazy with the haunted houses. That's how I was introduced to Buffy. It's
Nice.
also how I was introduced to Bloody Mary, because they basically did different rooms, like each, I guess, group of youth or age of them, whatever, they would get their own room to do. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
one of them was Bloody Mary. I remember one of them was, like, I guess, traditional evil scientist or whatever. And then the other one was literally like you've walked in the middle of a bunch of vampires that are feasting, and then Buffy comes in and starts killing them. And this is
Nice.
at a church.
Right.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So like I would kick off the Halloween season doing that every year. And I mean, just everything, like carving the pumpkin was a really big deal in our house. We carved an actual pumpkin instead of what they did in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I've mentioned I mentioned in like our very first episode, which I'm going to elaborate on, that I grew up in a real haunted house.
Yes.
So basically I grew up in an urban legend. My When my parents started dating, my dad was having this house built. And all of like the neighborhood was coming, to be what it was. All these houses were being built. This one was the first one. They had bought this land. It used to be a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And there were all of these urban legends about what happened to the family that lived there before, because the farmer, like, mysteriously, like, the family disappeared and he died really mysteriously, and it was said he died in the barn, and kids used to dare each other to go into the barn. So my house was built where the barn was.
Okay.
And so, like, everyone in our neighborhood was really freaked out because they're they were afraid that, you know, I don't know, the ghost of the farmer or whatever would come, like, possess them, and they thought I was the weirdest kid for actually, like, living in this house that was totally a
Right.
normal house. So, like, Halloween, I mean, we would go all out. We had this, like, foyer area that my dad would drape with, like, tarp stuff, and they would let me help decorate with blood and body parts and stuff that 5-year-olds just love.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have, like, a strobe light going and everything. And so, like, all of these kids would, like, dare each other, go to that house, go to that house, you know, and then they would come there, and, like, it was fun, but they would leave disappointed because I guess they didn't get, like, possessed by a ghost or something.
Right.
But that was also the reason we always had kids showing up at our house at, like, 11 o'clock on Halloween. Because they're like, if you go later, it's going to be better. Like,
That's
no,
fantastic.
no, it's just me trying to sleep. You're at my bedroom window. I don't know why, but okay.
Oh man. That's
So I could
awesome.
keep going into stuff, but that's a nutshell of everything.
That is absolutely fair. I So growing up, we did the go out trick or treating, very very middle class, suburb kind of stereotypes around that regard. You know, we would go out. There are a number of pictures that will never see the light of day of me as a young child in various very 80s esque uh, Halloween kid costumes. And that was great. And that was, I definitely had an interest in that, especially as I started to get more into horror growing up and, you know, finding the orange and black books that I always mention that I always forget the names of every single time, but getting into universal horror, classic horror and that sort of thing. And then when I was older teen, um into, like, particularly when after I graduated, um I became Wiccan, and then it took a very different sort of approach. I still love all of the horror aspects of it, but I mean, Samhain is a religious holiday for me. Um, so that is something where, as much as, you know, I enjoy all of the trappings of the horror aspects of it and trick or treating and so on. Unfortunately, I don't end up going to a lot of, like, Halloween parties alike because what, 6 years out of 7, it's on a day that I'm working. So, but it is, I love the holiday, and I always find a point, obviously, to do my own personal observances stuff. But yeah, interestingly, that was one of the things that I was kind of, when I first adopted Wicca, in a weird way, I was kind of worried about that because I love this season so much. But it kind of enhanced or even deepened it in a way. And yeah, just it's my favorite time of year at this point. It's for a number of reasons. I like the fall season. I like that most years it's getting cooler. I say that as I look at my phone and the forecast for the upcoming week. Now this is behind the scenes, Keith. This is last week of September, but we're looking at 80 degrees and 70 degrees this in September in fucking Oregon. So who the fuck knows what's gonna happen when we hit Halloween?
That's the same temperature it is down here.
Like, we are not used to this here. Normally now it would be about 10 degrees cooler on average. But you know, climate change isn't real, so the numbers are probably just wrong. Anyways, but yeah, it's best time of year for any number of reasons. One of them being it is a chance for me to do a hell of a lot. Not that I don't do this throughout the rest of the year, but the chance to do an extra dollop of horror watching. Like I said, Trick or Treat is a yearly watch. I also do the yearly Letterboxd Hooptober viewing challenge that we're a week in and I'm already ridiculously behind on, so that's going to be fun.
Okay, we're a week in. You're further than I am.
Yeah, remember it starts on the 15th.
I totally remembered that. Yeah.
I've only seen 2 so far, but
2 more than me.
This is absolutely a time, even before I was doing Letterboxd viewing challenges, this is a time for me to watch all of, horror is everywhere on television and on streaming services and in theaters, especially during the month of October. So I am all about it. Elle, are there, other than maybe the Halloween tree, I don't know if that it's something that you still watch. I know you're still fond of it. Or at least that's the inclination that I've gotten. Do you have any lead up to Halloween viewing traditions or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, with how not a thing it is here, it's like it's hard to even get the reminder that it's Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother's birthday is the day before Halloween, so it's like that should that try make connections.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like most years I'll end up like, oh, jeez, it's November. Ah, funny that.
Fair enough.
That's about what I get out of the spooky season. Because I mean, it's like, yeah, you get the online reminders, like everyone going, oh, it's Halloween. Yeah, but that starts in like April.
Okay, you're not wrong.
Everyone's like, oh, it's only like 200 odd days until Halloween. So even if I was getting the reminders there, it's just, you tune it out.
All right, I have a new mission, which is to remind you at the start of October that it's Halloween season, and you should definitely watch a lot of things.
So I will also mention, like, as we've sort of let slip, this is the last week of September.
Right.
So I work retail.
Okay.
They have put anything Halloween out on clearance because it wasn't a lot. There is Christmas stuff in, like all the Christmas decorations and everything are up. They have started playing the music.
Of course they have. It's not much different here.
I don't like the Christmas. I don't like it. So
2 weeks I won't be able to find Halloween costumes on the shelves anymore, and there'll be trees everywhere.
So yeah, even if we did celebrate Halloween, it's already finished by now, the last week of September, evidently.
I have such issues with the way that we start trying to get into Christmas season before, not even before Thanksgiving. Like, that's okay. I get that. I'm comfortable with that. I'm sorry. No, you don't get to start. I know I am the lone voice standing in front of the incoming tsunami trying to stop it, but you don't get to start doing the Christmas stuff until at least Halloween has passed. You have 2 full months. That's more than enough time.
And I have literally had people tell me, it's like, well, we got to start early because all the good stuff will be gone. It's like, no, you don't have to start early.
Not that early.
Just don't do it at all.
That's not how supply and demand works. If you have a certain level of supply and you put it in it doesn't matter whether you're selling over a 2-month period or a 3-month period, you're still going to run out of the same amount of stuff. God.
Yep.
That's just a conspiracy by the Christmas industrial complex.
I think I've raised my children correctly, because if they see any Christmas stuff, well, first we run past it as fast as we can. Griffin will stop and look at it and go, "No, wait your turn." Not yet.
Fantastic.
He will loudly yell through the stores, "Why are you putting this up?"
I love it. Yeah, so I'll try to get down off my high horse about that situation. But Ollie, how about you? What are I know you try to watch fill holes in your viewing for Halloween, like
that one's more recent. I think, like, as a kid growing up, we used to watch, and one day we will review this when I feel braver. We used to watch Lady in White, leading up to Halloween. I would also watch The Halloween Tree. I loved that movie. And like many 90s children, Hocus Pocus was constantly on the TV.
Right.
Then as I was a little older, my parents had the tradition of the movie that they are obsessed with, which was Young Frankenstein.
Okay, fair enough.
And they used to, because they've got a really big driveway, so on Halloween they do. My dad still sets up a table, but when we first moved into the house, they would set up a table and they would set up a laptop and play Young Frankenstein and like have the bowls of candy and stuff out and beer for the adults.
Right.
Right on. As I got older, I'm trying to do the thing where I fill in a gap each year. Like a few years ago, it was Halloween. I did Trick or Treat. I know I did something else. Nightmare on Elm Street. Another year.
Yes.
Yeah. Trying to fill major gaps in.
Right on. So yeah, let's start talking about Trick or Treat specifically. We will, as usual, kick off with a little bit of production history. A little bit. So, Trick or Treat is written and directed by Michael Dougherty. It stars Quinn Lord, Dylan Baker, Anna Paquin, Brian Cox, Sam Todd, Leslie Bibb, and Tamo Pennicott. And a whole bunch of other people, but I just had to choose like the biggest names because there's no real major, there's no one lead star in this movie because it's an anthology film.
Sam.
So yeah, I mean Sam, which is Quinn Lord. That is one of Quinn Lord's roles. More on that in a minute. So Dougherty was making his directorial debut on this film. He was best known at the time as a writer. He co-wrote X-Men 2, Superman Returns, and Urban Legends Bloody Mary. One of those things is not like the other. With his writing partner Dan Harris. But he had done a few short films that he had directed. One of these was Season's Greetings, which was a 4-minute animated film set on Halloween. This is where the original incarnation of Sam Hain is. We see him as a little boy who's trick-or-treating alone on Halloween until he is followed into an alleyway by a shadowy man. We think we see the man attacking Sam, but it turns out that Sam has actually beaten the man to death. Anyone who hasn't seen it, it is on YouTube. I will put it in the show notes for this episode because it is an absolute delight. Anyway, Season's Greetings ended up playing at film festivals and had a fair amount of success. It ended up actually airing on MTV's Cartoon Sushi and on Sci-Fi Channel, a number of other places. And Dougherty was inspired to create the live-action film that we now have as a result. The script for the movie went through several iterations and was worked on over a number of years. At one point, it was set in New York City, and another version didn't have the segments intercut with each other and were complete segment after segment in succession. Trick or Treat was shot in Vancouver, British Columbia from November 2006 to January of 2007. The production went pretty smooth, but there were some struggles with the studio during the editing process. Studio wanted more or less a straightforward horror film and was less on board with the horror comedy aspects. For example, they wanted the scene where Wilkins is dragging Charlie inside the house cut because they felt it was too funny. Dougherty actually had to fight them tooth and nail for that scene and for a number of other scenes. They also, perhaps a little more understandably, but come the fuck on, it's an R-rated horror film. They also had issues with the amount of children deaths in it. The film was originally scheduled by Warner Brothers, who financed it, for an October 2007 release, but it was pushed back in September. It had its festival premiere in December of that year at Butt-Numathon, which is the festival created by film critic. You can probably hear the air quotes around that because I use that term very loosely. Harry Nowells of Ain't It Cool News. Movie earned a ton of buzz from that screening, and then nothing happened. No release date for quite a long time, despite even in 2008 there was merchandising that was being released, mostly centered around Sam. And even though it was earning raves at festivals in like late 2008, it got a few more of those. It wasn't getting a release date. And the problem was Warner Brothers had no idea how to market this movie. Anthology films don't generally do incredibly gangbusters business. Horror comedy can also be very hit and miss. So they had no idea what to do with this movie. And it ended up sitting on a shelf until, of all things, True Blood came to the rescue. Because that show became a hit on HBO, which is also owned by Warner Brothers. In late 2008, and Anna Paquin became a household name. Suddenly, Warner Brothers was like, hey, we need to get her in other stuff. Oh, wait, she plays a character in this horror movie that we've got. Let's go ahead and put it out. But even then, they just threw it out straight to DVD in October 6, 2009. At that point, the film already had a following because of the buzz it had percolating around it. Like I said, I was following it pretty regularly and waiting on bated breath for it to come out. And once it did hit DVD, it became an instant cult favorite. Critics absolutely love the film for the most part, with an 83% aggregate on Rotten Tomatoes. It has since gone on and become a massive favorite for the Halloween season. Doherty has been teasing a sequel for years and said last year that the script is done and storyboarded. It just needs to get made, and that the holdup is at the studio level. Because of course it is. Because, again, I understand it's hard to market, but Warner Brothers makes such good decisions around its films, as we have seen recently. Few fun facts about this movie. A lot of the Wilkins house sequence in the beginning was actually shot during the day, and they used a tent to make it look like it was at night, while the backyard actually takes place on a soundstage. Doherty made sure to put characters throughout the background shots and scenes, so if you look closely, you can see them throughout in order to connect everything. For example, this is my favorite of them. The cat costume lady at the sex party, we find out is a werewolf because if you look closely, you can realize that she is rolling the hot dog costume that we see the guy wearing inside the house, rolling that towards the campfire because he's been et. Another good example is in the opening scene. You can see a group of trick-or-treaters walking to the left when the masked teenager is staring at Emma, and those are the school bus zombie kids who just took care of Krieg. And the final fun fact, the educational film that starts the film wasn't originally there. It was created specifically for the trailer, and Doherty loved it so much that he put it in the movie. And it was created by whoever put the trailer together just by sort of cobbling these sort of stock Halloween footage scenes into this 50s-esque sort of educational film that you would show in class. So that's the story of this film's production and troubled release. Before we get into the plot synopsis, a little bit of content warning. There are many dead children in this movie. There is an unfortunately liberal use of the R slur. And there is a pretty decent amount of gore and violence. This film does not hold a lot back in terms of the blood content in it. So, Holly, tell us about this film. Tell us what takes place during it.
A lot.
A lot. That
Yes,
is true.
That's it. In the opening scene, Emma and her Halloween-loving husband, Henry, return home after a celebratory night. Emma, who hates Halloween, blows out their jack-o'-lantern before midnight against Henry's advice. As Henry falls asleep in the house, Emma tears down the decorations, but is then ambushed and murdered by an unseen assailant. Hours later, Henry discovers Emma's mutilated corpse on display with the decorations. We then cut to a boy named Charlie who vandalizes jack-o'-lanterns, steals candy from unattended bowls. When the school principal, Stephen Wilkins, catches him red-handed, Wilkins offers Charlie a candy bar while lecturing him on the importance of respecting Halloween rules and traditions. Shortly after, Charlie begins vomiting violently. As Charlie dies, Wilkins reveals that he laced the candy with cyanide, as you do. Lori, a self-conscious 22-year-old girl from out of town, joins her older sister Danielle and their friends Maria and Janet for Halloween. The girls select princess costumes while Laurie dresses up as Little Red Riding Hood. Laurie misses trick-or-treating and is uncaring of her friends and sisters' talk of dates. We then revisit Wilkins as he attempts to bury Charlie in the backyard along with the body of another victim, but is continually interrupted by trick-or-treaters, including Sam, his young Halloween-loving son Billy, his cantankerous elderly neighbor Mr. Krieg, and Krieg's dog. The other victim turns out to still be alive, and Wilkins beats him to death with a shovel to keep him quiet. Returning indoors, Wilkins notices Krieg seemingly in distress but brushes it off before something attacks Krieg. Wilkins guides Billy downstairs to carve a jack-o'-lantern. As a twist, the jack-o'-lantern they are about to carve is Charlie's severed head. A group of teenage trick-or-treaters, Macy, Chip, Schrader, and Sarah, meet Halloween traditionalist Rhonda, who loves carving jack-o'-lanterns. Macy leads the group to a flooded quarry and recounts the urban legend of the Halloween school bus massacre. The parents of 8 mentally disabled children bribe their bus driver to dispose of them. Things go awry when a child dressed as Dracula gets loose and the bus is driven off a cliff into the quarry. The children are all drowned, and the driver, the only survivor, was never heard from again. No one tried to find the bus, as the people didn't want it to be found. We then cut to the town Halloween party. As the other girls pick up dates and head to a bonfire party in the woods, Laurie stays and enjoys the town festival. Later, on the way to meet up with her friends, she is attacked by a man in a vampire costume. Laurie arrives at the girls' bonfire with an injured and frightened vampire who turns out to be a disguised Stephen Wilkins. The girls shed their clothing and skin, revealing their werewolf bodies. Having chosen Wilkins as her first kill, Laurie also transforms and kills him. Sam watches as the werewolves feast on their deceased dates. We then cut back to the flooded quarry where Macy leaves 8 jack-o'-lanterns by the lake as a tribute to the deceased. The group splits up, leaving Rhonda and Chip behind. Rhonda gets separated and is pursued by horrifying figures, which turns out just to be the other teens in disguise. A prank planned by Macy. Realizing that the trick-or-treat has gone too far, Schrader tries to comfort the hurt and terrified Rhonda, while a bitter Macy kicks a jack-o'-lantern into the water. Then, the actual drowned children, now risen as undead, emerge from the lake and attack the teens. Rhonda abandons the rest of them to their deaths as revenge for their prank. As she leaves with a wagon of jack-o'-lanterns, Rhonda encounters Sam, and they exchange a respectful nod. We then move to Krieg, a Halloween hater. He dresses his dog up to scare trick-or-treaters off his doorstep. As the night proceeds, Krieg encounters unusual phenomena. The front of his house is egged, then the lawn is filled with ornate jack-o'-lanterns, and the hallways and ceilings are scrawled with Halloween greetings. Sam ambushes and attacks Krieg. In their struggle, he manages to unmask his assailant, whose head resembles a grotesque hybrid of a skull and a jack-o'-lantern. Krieg then shoots Sam several times with a shotgun, knocking him down. However, Sam incapacitates and corners Krieg, who fails to get Wilkins to help him. When Sam tries to stab Krieg, he instead hits a candy bar, which had fallen off the old man's lap. With that, he, quote-unquote, gives the candy to Sam, completing the tradition of handing out candies on Halloween. Satisfied, Sam spares a confused Krieg and departs. Meanwhile, the photographs burning in the fireplace reveal that Krieg was the missing driver from the school bus massacre. We then see a heavily bandaged Krieg give candy to the trick or treaters, and he witnesses other people upholding Halloween traditions. Billy sits on his father's porch while handing out candy and enjoying himself. Rhonda casually pulls her wagon along filled with jack o' lanterns, and Laurie and her friends drive home while laughing to each other. After Emma and Henry arrive home, Sam sees Emma prematurely extinguishing the jack o' lantern and moves to kill her as punishment. Krieg then answers another knock on the door as he is surrounded and brutally torn apart by the zombie children from the bus. Rightfully so.
Yep. Yep. So that is Trick or Treat. And spoiler alert, I really like this movie, so what a delight. So let's talk about, because we haven't covered, arguably we did with Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. But that was a little bit different. We haven't covered anthology horror films before. So, Elle, how do you feel about anthology horror? Are you a fan of it? Are there any anthology horror films that you're a particular fan of? Are there ones that perhaps you are not necessarily a fan of, or?
I mean, it's hard to say because I think this might be my first anthology horror.
Okay.
But in terms of like anthologies, uh, it's interesting because you can get like you get the different stories that couldn't fill like the rest of the space by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, are you doing them a disservice by condensing them that much? Are there ones that could have been stretched out and like expanded upon? I think with like these ones, maybe not as much. They felt fairly self-contained and like there was enough there for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's something that like the thought of that comes to mind where it's like you made like X amount of short stories, but what if you focused on one like proper sized one? Would that be better? Would that not be as good? Who's to say?
I mean, look, I would argue that some stories, expanding them out is a negative, because we have seen short films that get expanded out to full movies, and it becomes very clear that there's not enough there. Also, I think there's a lot of value in telling a shorter story. And if you can take those shorter stories and combine them, all the better. But I am very much a fan of a story being exactly as long as it needs to be, and not trying to force it, either condense it down too much or force it to fill out a larger length than it needs to be. But I do get that.
There's that bit of a balance to walk.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's the trick of storytelling in general. Pacing is a big part of that. So, yeah, absolutely. Holly, how about you? Do you have a lot of experience with anthology horror films? Are there any that you're particularly a fan of or not? Is it a genre that doesn't work for you?
Oh no, I love anthology horror.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with too many anthology horror films though.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Especially, I love the idea of everything happening on one night and how they're
Right.
connected. Like, I love that so much. And I love seeing the little things, like, even like this movie can be a little confusing because just the time frame of when everything is happening, because you flash
Mm-hmm.
back to like earlier that night and then yeah. But I really enjoy, I think I'm more familiar with anthology horror books than I am with like horror movies.
That's fair. And yeah, I mean that is an entirely valid and significant portion of anthology horror there too. Um, yeah, for sure. I think actually, I think books are probably where I started to get my love, specifically Stephen King short story anthologies. I have a bit of a love hate relationship with Stephen King's full books. I think I enjoy a lot of them, but a lot of the criticism of his books are very valid. He doesn't know how to end a novel for the most part. There becomes a point where where if you've read enough of them, you can immediately tell the self-insert teacher or writer or whatever character that it is, and it starts to get a little eye rolly. Um, his writing style is not necessarily for everybody, but his short story collections are amazing. Like any short story, there is, or any collection of stories, there's better ones than others. Um, that's sort of the double-edged sword of an anthology project. Is generally you're going to get probably one really good story, uh, a few decent, okay stories, and there will usually be at least one that's not so good. I could say that for just about every anthology horror film I've seen. And then there are a few that are just, no, these are, every single one of these is bad. Uh, hello, the ABCs of death. But I do like the genre, the subgenre as a whole. I enjoy several of the VHS films. Any of the VHS films that is not VHS viral, which is the only truly bad ones of those. I enjoy Tales from the Hood, Body Bags, Creep Show 1 and 2, Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye is a great one. It was a genre that really did well in the 80s, where they were doing stuff on TV like Twilight Zone and Tales from the Dark Side and that sort of. I know a lot of people are fans of the Twilight Zone movie. I have issues with it because of one particular segment that is a whole rant in and of itself, about shocking lack of safety in the industry and decisions that were made regarding that.
I was waiting for
But
you to say it wasn't that segment.
no, it's that
Really
fucking.
okay.
It's that fucking segment. So I very quickly, for people who don't know, there is the segment that is directed by John Landis, featured a because of a shocking level of everything falling down in terms of safety, and the director demanding an unsafe shot. A helicopter crashed and killed three people.
Yes.
Three people, two of which were children. And it's still in the fucking movie, which is kind of the most important part of it all. I mean, it's not the worst part. The worst part is the dead kids, but the fact that they left that sequence, and I don't remember. I don't think the footage of the crash is actually in the movie. There are urban legends about that, but regardless, the fact that it was kept in the movie is just, I have issues with it.
My dad, who loves the Twilight Zone, and I watched the movie with him. He showed it to me.
Mm-hmm.
He skipped that scene though. He doesn't watch
Yeah.
that scene, so I'm not sure. Like he described what was originally meant for it and what happened, and
Mm-hmm.
then he skipped it. So
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's a lot. There is a great. Let me back step off that a little bit. There is a mostly good episode of the docuseries Cursed Films that covers the Twilight Zone and that particular thing. My only issue with it is there is not graphic, but there is footage of the plane crash in it. That's where I think I got my details mixed up. And I don't think the footage needed to be in there, and that was a bad decision by the docuseries makers. But other than that, it's a pretty great episode that covers that situation pretty extensively. Fortunately, we're not talking about John fucking Landis, although we probably will at some point in the future because American Werewolf in London is a thing. And that's a great movie. Didn't he also do Gremlins? I think so. Anyways,
I don't know directors or actors or anyone.
I'm pretty sure he did Gremlins.
I am withholding any comments until we get to it.
Might be able to look forward to that one in the near future. We will see. Holly has thoughts. But so moving on from the anthology aspect, let's talk about the way this story is put together. Holly, how do you feel about the way the story interweaves? It's kind of confusing, the chronology, but that feels like it's intentional. It feels like there's enough clues there. How well does that aspect of this movie work for you?
So I was able to pick up on it pretty quickly. That said, even on the rewatch, though I'd only seen this one time before, but on my rewatch, I was still a little confused on the timing of everything because I remembered the couple at the beginning and like the woman that's killed and everything. I remembered that comes around at the end. And I think I forgot about Krieg, the next door neighbor, like the fact that it shows him like in distress when Wilkins is going into the house. And I was thrown for a minute and I was like, what is happening over there? Which I mean is probably a good thing because you're curious and it shows up later. And then I realized, oh, that happens. This is all happening at like different times because that threw me a bit because that stuff is apparently happening when Wilkins is burying the body. But then after that, Wilkins is like the quote unquote vampire and gets what was coming to him and gets like brutally murdered. So I guess I thought Creek stuff happened later because we see all of it later, but I think that just threw me a bit.
Yeah, it's not super clear, particularly on a first watch. Like this is one of those situations where I think it rewards multiple viewings because it does all work out. So you are correct. The Wilkins stuff and Krieg being attacked by Sam is obviously earlier in the film. Even though the Krieg attack happens at the end of the film, it works because it doesn't make it explicit within the Krieg story, which is told pretty much self-contained, unlike the rest of it. But the point where at the end of the film, chronologically, where Emma and Henry are, that whole thing happens, and Krieg is killed by the zombies. There is a significant amount of time between the point where Sam leaves Krieg's house and where he has bandaged himself up and he is now handing out candy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it gives you that sort of buffer. And then, like, there are, again, there's a lot of stuff in the background that kind of gives you hints to this kind of stuff. There is fun stuff like Sam showing up at Wilkins' house and taking the candy bar from him.
Mm-hmm.
He then, if you work it out, it does not make it explicit within the film, but he essentially walks right over to Krieg's house.
He's eating the candy, isn't he? When he
He
shows up
is-
at Krieg's?
He is, I mean, I think so, but that candy bar has a razor blade in it. Because Wilkins put razor blades in the candy.
Oh.
Like, yeah, all this little stuff. And then obviously the Wilkins stuff that we see at his house happens earlier. Then the stuff in the parade and all of that is kind of mid-film. And then him going after Lori is a little bit later than that. So the clues are there if you see it, but do you think being confused, do you think that level of, like, I'm not sure where this, did that, I'm not even going to say detract, but did that affect your enjoyment at all?
No, if anything, I was more intrigued by it.
Okay. That's fair enough.
No, I will get to this later. I only have one problem with this movie, or one major problem.
Okay. Elle, how about you? Because I know, first of all, I know you're not somebody who does a lot of rewatching, so the notion of, oh, this stuff will be rewarded on a rewatch isn't necessarily a bonus for you. How does the way that the story is told in this interweaving, there's a term for it in general I wouldn't even say anthologies, but general sort of multiple stories converging films, where they call it hyperlinked. You see a lot of these with, like, the Gary Marshall, like, holiday romantic comedies like Valentine's Day and New Year's Day. There's a lot of that in those kinds of movies. Love Actually does the same thing. They call that hyperlinked in that. How does the interweaving nature work for you?
I think by not making it just a sequential block for each, it really made it flow better than...
Okay.
Well, because otherwise it's like start, stop.
Right.
For each, like, identifiable chunk. And by having them sort of woven together, it's almost like you're preventing someone just skipping to their best, like, their favorite part. It's like, well, I don't need the other 3 bits. I just wanted this one bit, and there it is. Cool, I'm done.
Right.
Whereas now it's like, not that would be the kind of person, I guess, who would watch this movie repeatedly, but it's that it kind of prevents that, because, like, yeah, it's all part and parcel.
It prevents the incels from just skipping to the Anna Paquin story.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it.
Because they would. We know they would.
I assume that's what the custom bookmarks are in your favorite video player of choice.
Right. No, and that is absolutely fair. I do think it would be. I would still like to see one day Warner Brothers put together that particular cut of a film because Doherty, I watched in addition to just doing the rewatch, I watched this with the director's commentary as well. Um, and he is of the firm belief that if you did, because again, that was his original idea, was that they were going to be all their own stories where the links would still be there, but they would be, you know, uh let's say the Wilkins story and then the werewolf girl story, and then he is firmly of the belief that if it done that way they all still hold up, and I believe him. I do think that makes it a less interesting film if you do
It,
that.
yeah, it's also just reminded me that my dad is watching all the Marvel Cinematic Universe
Mm-hmm.
in chronological order
Oh God.
rather than, as the movies were released and tied in together.
Right.
It's like, okay, when did this movie canonically happen? Cool, that goes here.
Yeah. I know people who have done that. I'm actually on a long. I started it at the start, near the start of the year, and then I took several months off. I've kind of started getting back into it. MCU rewatch, but I'm not. I can't do that chronological thing. It's got to be in the film release order.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually it catches up to itself,
Oh, for sure.
but it's like my brain hurts a bit trying to think about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, it's because there are things that you will drop that won't necessarily make sense later, and I think that there would be an element of that if you did it with these, with the blocks, the individual blocks. um I do really like the interweaving nature. I think that in fact, I like it to the point of, well, I do really like the Krieg segment at the end. I think that is potentially the sequence that drags the most because it is the most self-contained, and at that point you are you're kind of primed in a way to expect that these stories are going to interweave, and there is stuff definitely that comes up during that section, but I tend to find the other sequences more interesting because of those connections, and because I am somebody who, again, has watched this more or less yearly since I think I started doing the Halloween watch tradition. Um, I would say probably 10 years ago. So I have seen it 10 times now because I've already seen it before the Halloween rewatch this year, and I will see it again. I do really like seeing all the stuff in the background, and it's one of those movies where I pick up something new every single time because of it. Like this time was the time that I noticed uh, that the cat lady, the cat costume lady, is definitely a werewolf and is seen, albeit very briefly, in the campfire scene. And those are just those little kind of things that I really, really enjoy.
I
Um,
then another thing like with that though is like the Krieg segment sort of has to be in one big block
yeah, it
because
does.
he's
You're
not
wrong.
interacting with anyone really.
Yep.
Aside from like the brief interaction with Wilkins.
Yeah.
The brief Wilkins interactions, a couple of quick trick or treat experiences with the kids.
Yeah, so it's like if you were to try and break it up as like the others are, it's going to be, yep, you go back to him, yeah, he's watching TV and drinking again. And now
Yeah,
back to the other
no,
parts.
that is absolutely fair. I guess there would be ways that you could do it, but I don't think it would. I don't think it would be natural. So I think it makes sense for that. It's just that at that point, you are. I feel like I'm so primed to have all the interweaving stuff that it just feels a little bit weird to me. Not the segment's fault, certainly not Brian Cox's fault, because he's fucking great in that role. But just is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it falls flat sort of a bit by comparison.
100%. That actually provides a really good segue. Holly, what is your which of these segment / story arcs is your favorite and why, and which one perhaps doesn't register as well for you?
This is going to sound so bad when I do my
Okay.
explanation, but please let me fully explain.
No, go for it.
Okay, so my
I feel like dead kids are gonna register very strongly here.
So my favorite one is the school bus massacre.
Yep.
So I see a lot of my youngest son in Rhonda.
Mm-hmm.
And I only hope that I am raising him in a way that if someone does this to him, which I feel like I am, because I always say that I'm not that worried about him because he knows how to hold his own. So I truly could see him getting back at a group of kids trying to bully him by just, okay, she didn't actually murder them. She just saved them.
Rhonda innocent.
100%. And again,
Rhonda is 100% innocent.
That is exactly the way my child would do it too. So
yep.
I'm like, no, I also screw those parents in the school bus massacre.
Listen, I have thoughts about those kids and about Rhonda.
The bus driver is not great. He's horrible. But
no, he's awful.
The parents were like, hey, we've got an idea.
Right?
So, yeah.
Fuck those parents. Fuck. Schrader at least tries.
He's the only one I feel a little bad for.
Yeah, he's the one that you kind of feel bad for. No, don't get me wrong. I fucking love Macy as a character because she's a little bitch, and I enjoy those kinds of characters.
Right.
I do love me a good Regina George, but yeah, fuck those kids. And as far as I'm concerned, Rhonda is being a good witch and letting the threefold karma law apply.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, no, that I had a feeling that might be your favorite.
Oh yeah, it is.
Which one of the three, if there is one that you weren't necessarily, if they're, relatively, I think they're all good personally, but which one hits you the least?
Okay, I'm not gonna say it hits me the least, but it's the one I have a problem with.
Okay.
And it would be the Krieg one.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that idea. I love the idea that he is the school bus driver, and I love the end when all of the undead children are at his store. It's fantastic. So
right.
There's something, I think his segment could have been better, and it's just something that bothers me, is that Sam gets unmasked. I don't think we needed to see what was under the mask. I really like the idea of leaving the mystery there. I don't think the monsters always need to be revealed.
That's very fair.
Because he became, and yeah, he looks really bizarre and stuff, but he became less terrifying to me the second he was unmasked.
I do agree with that. That is absolutely fair.
Your imagination is always going to be more powerful than basically anything they can confirm.
100%. That's why prequels are so dicey propositions. Don't get me wrong, I love a good prequel, but the key word there is good, and a lot of them ruin the mystery of a character.
I truly think this would be just about a perfect Halloween movie if they did not unmask him.
That's fair.
I also would say the attack goes a little too far, in my opinion. Because when
Okay.
it happens at the beginning with Emma, you do not see him at all.
Right.
It's an unseen force. Now, you know it's probably him. But again, I like the mystery. And you can still show him, but the crawling on the ceiling, I think it went a little too far at that point.
That's fair. Elle, how about you? Which of the segments does the most for you, and which one does the worst or the least?
I think for me, honestly, Wilkins's segment is my pick.
That doesn't surprise me.
Because it's that little bit of a subversion upon itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that just was not a good thing for me was the werewolf one. It's like I good. I don't need that amount of sex and stuff. Yeah. I have weird hang-ups
very
about
much
it.
assumed.
And it's like, I know that's 100% a me issue. But it's like, yeah, I'm good. We don't need it. Thanks. Ugh.
That is entirely fair. I did have a feeling that was going to be the one that hit you the least because of that. For me, I've said which one was the one that hits me the least. I don't necessarily have a huge problem with Sam being unmasked. I do agree it makes him less scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's just at that point, everything else, and there is nothing wrong with the Krieg segment. I think from a critical, objective standpoint, it all works. It's hitting within the same themes. It's a moment where you bring out some of the bigger like action-y kind of scares. And it works, it just doesn't connect with me as much personally. I do like, also, I will say, and this is something I hadn't considered until I watched with the commentary, and Doherty sort of explained how each of the films in sequential order are the different stages of a person's experience with Halloween throughout life.
Mm.
And so I understand why that's the way. Like you've got the first film, which is the parent introducing the son to the holiday. Then you've got the second one, which is you and your friends sort of roaming around without parents, doing the trick-or-treating thing for the first time, getting in trouble, doing pranks and that kind of stuff. Then there's the werewolf one, which is very much that 20s Halloween vibe. When yes, there is a lot of the there's a reason at Final Show Films we call October Lust Month. But it's about that, but it's also about sort of coming into your own. And then the final story is the Scrooge-esque sort of dealing with Halloween when you're older and potentially on your own, and you don't have those sort of younger things to tie you to it. So I get why that sequence is there. I think it's well done in that respect. I think Brian Cox is great in that role. That's the kind of role that he can do in his sleep, frankly. But he does still fully commit to it. It just doesn't hit me. My personal favorite is absolutely the werewolf one.
I knew it.
And not for the reasons that it would be many people. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to complain about those aspects. But I You know, I love a story about good for her characters,
Mm-hmm.
which that very much is.
I mean, I would also argue that the Rhonda story is a good for you or good for her
Absolutely,
character.
100%. But it's also, I like, interestingly, I like it, and this is perhaps a little bit of a weird read. But while I think a lot of people view that story as, let's just call it the most 2000 of the 2000s of the segments, it is incredibly male gazy, and it is very much all about sex as metaphor for werewolf, um, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's subverting that. And here's what I mean. So there is, it's a joke online at this point, or not just online, online and offline at this point, of the sexy Halloween costumes and the basically turning Halloween into this sort of horny state, a holiday. And I appreciate that these, not just these four friends, but a number of the characters, apparently throughout the town and outside of it, are using, whether it is orgy cat costume lady or Lori, or who has you, using the that sort of view of the holiday as a way to do their yearly punishing and showing people the horror of what Halloween is really about, so to speak. So I think it's a very clever subversion of that sort of thing. Of course, by subverting it, it means you have to show a lot of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Like I said, I'm not going to complain about Anna Paquin that way. But I think by far the more interesting aspect of it is how cleverly it takes all of the dialogue, particularly in that Halloween costume shop scene. And you think on your first watch they're talking about one thing. Every single thing that they say is essentially a double entendre. Right down to where, and I don't remember which of the two friends it is, but they mentioned that one of them end up throwing up all night in one of the past Halloweens because they had some bad Mexican. They're not talking about tacos and tequila.
I mean, it depends on what the person ate, but yeah.
That's true. That is entirely true. But
That's
like
that Kevin Nash promo.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are you going to do after this? Big Kev? Like, well, I'm going to go eat out a little Chinese.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like,
yeah. But so to me, I think it is the most subversive of the four sequences. I fucking love the transformation scene. It is a way of doing werewolf transformation. I mean, it pays homage to some other stuff like American Werewolf in London, but, and I'm sure a movie has done it before. I may have even seen one, but I cannot currently think of any previous werewolf film where transforming involved taking off your human suit.
Yeah.
It's
That's the
so
first time I've
good.
seen that.
It's so good. And like, fuck Marilyn Manson, but setting that to Sweet Dreams was a stroke of genius. Yeah, it's just I adore that whole sequence.
Would it have worked with the Eurythmics version?
I think so, because I think the Eurythmics version is also creepy. There was originally, I can't remember, he said this on the commentary, there was a much more jaunty song that he wanted to use, and I don't remember which song it is, and I'm currently looking through trivia to see if it it was originally cut to Peggy Lee's Fever. But somebody suggested giving it more of an edge with the Sweet Dreams song. And Doherty said, yeah, you guys were totally right on that. But I think there are a number of ways that you could score it. I think this one works perfectly for what they were seeking, but I don't think the Eurythmics one would have been a bad choice either.
So before we get off the before we go away from the topic of sex, I actually have an etiquette question for the two Halloween enjoyers.
Okay.
Is there a publicly agreed on signal that your house is able to be trick-or-treated at?
Lights on.
Yeah, lights on. Usually a pumpkin, but doesn't have to be a pumpkin. If everything is dark, you don't usually go to that house.
Correct.
Okay, because it's like, that's a little bit awkward then.
Yep.
Because it's like, yeah, we are hosting an orgy in this house, which is viewable from the street if I open the door. Let's put out the trick or treat happy here, kids sign. Like, if it's just lights on and a decoration, that seems like not enough.
What they could have done is they could have just left a bowl in front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
That said like, please take a few or something, and just refilled it throughout the night.
Yeah. Well, but that's the joke too, is that they're incredibly irresponsible adults.
Right.
Like, but no, those that was, they were not following proper Halloween etiquette there.
Yeah, because it's like, if it's something that needs to be consciously done, I know that I would hate to come home from a night shift and it's like my house has been egged and toilet papered to hell and back just because kids went there expecting like chocolate and things, and it's like, well,
yeah,
you know, come on, you've got the signal out, you're not giving us anything that we want, time to for revenge. But
yeah, no, turn off your outside light. Like that,
like,
that is usually the accepted symbol. Like, for example, when we run out of candy, which we don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters at our house, so we don't have to worry about it too much. But when we run out, we will turn off the light, which is always very funny because I go out front to smoke. So I just end up looking creepy on Halloween towards the later of the night, because if you walk by, there's a darkened house and you can just see the shadow of someone and the red cherry of a cigarette. But yeah,
it's like, because that's what I mean. I don't know, because I don't even go to this school.
Right. No, for sure. There is one thing, because there's not really a great spot to talk about it later, that I want to talk about when I talk about something that I have one of the segment problems. And I'm not even going to call this a problem. It just reminds me that, oh, this is a 2009 movie. I know we're not supposed to like Macy and the anybody besides Schrader in that.
Mm-hmm.
It is real uncomfortable in 2025 to hear the amount of R slurs that are in that scene.
Yeah.
I
mean,
again, it's a movie of its time, and
I'm used
this
to it.
is not the first time we're going to have that happen, but
I'm used to it because I watch a lot of like older, gosh, when I say older, 80s, 90s, and I hear it a lot in that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it bothers me a lot, but it just, for me, it just makes her ending so much better.
Yeah.
Because she
It is
deserved all of that. Couldn't have happened to a worse person.
It is important to recognize in this case, in defense of the scene, even as it makes me uncomfortable, the key here is the film acknowledges that Macy is a bad person for doing this. It never tries to excuse the use of the. It's the same way. Yeah, I watch a lot of older stuff, and particularly in 90s films are particularly bad for this one. But the amount of a certain, let's say, a teen to young adult targeted movies that just casually drop the F slur in those eras.
Mm-hmm.
Same sort of thing. It is a thing of its time, and the key is whether the movie tries to acknowledge that these characters are bad for doing so or not. And to this film's credit, it does. It's just something that I legitimately forget every time I watch it until it happens. I'm like, all right.
See, I'm also kind of used to it, but not because I watch older stuff. Is that people here kind of go for, like, kind of act like they're going for a record of swearing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, dropping a casual C-bomb is like, yeah, that's every second or third word out of some people's mouths. So hearing a lot of the stuff that's like considered taboo in other places in the world, and for good reason, just as part of everyday conversation.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's not great. But also, how do you try to police that? Because if it happens like in a small friend group, it's like, whoa, 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 hey, that's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you do it on such a large scale, especially repeatedly?
As safely as you can is usually the way that I put it. If you can, situational. Yeah, it is what it is.
It shouldn't be, but it is.
It absolutely shouldn't be. And it's a lot easier for certain people to call it out than it is for other people. And hope, just do what you can. Is I've certainly called it out in people before. But anyway,
On that happy note,
on that happy note, we could be here all day talking about, well, which are our favorite characters, or which are. Let's just focus on Sam because he's the common thread. And honestly, the other characters, they're outside of like maybe Rhonda, who maybe Lori, and maybe Wilkins and Krieg. Really, Sam's the main character here. El What do you think about Sam as a character and how the movie uses him?
So, yeah, maybe it is just an issue of we don't have that, like, we don't have Halloween here, so there's a lot of nuance that I'm missing. I did not get his motivation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, obviously, he's the through line and, like, connecting everything, but pourquoi, how and why? I looked it up on the wiki, like Wikipedia, and it's like, I could guess that makes sense, but it's not something I would have picked up on.
Yeah, that's fair. That is, that is very much a cultural thing, I think. Geographical, whichever.
Because even they explicitly do mention it. It's like, the rules and traditions, and it's like, yeah, I don't like. There's no obvious link there, and it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
for all intents and purposes, it is just pure coincidence that these 4 stories are happening, 4 or 5, and there is this supernatural character at the center of it for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I can name specifically all the different things that everybody individually does wrong. Um, Obviously, Emma not respecting the don't blow out jack-o'-lantern, which there are a number of legitimate mystical reasons why you do not do that. Uh, like I said, the werewolf scene is very much about not to me is very much about not taking the holiday seriously and just turning it into, for lack of a better way to put it, a fuck fest. And so on and so forth. Like each of them does something that is very much a cardinal sin. Now, objectively, should any of them get murdered for it? No, but then it's not a horror film. Freddy Krueger shouldn't be murdering all of these kids just because their parents were mean. But that's what makes him a good horror character and in a good horror movie. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, I can see where if you are not keyed into the specific traditions, it's not going to necessarily make as much sense to you.
Yeah, I figure if I do rewatch it at some point with that understanding, it might work a bit better.
Yeah. I think that it probably would. Holly, what about you? How do you like Sam as a character? How do you like how he's used, how he shows up, etc.?
So, aside from because I told you what bothers me is the
Right.
unmasking. But beyond that, and I think why it does bother me so much is I love the idea of Sam. I love the idea that there is this person or this force watching everyone to make sure that they uphold the traditions.
Mm-hmm.
I love that there's just this quiet observer. You never know who it could be as he's disguised among the trick-or-treaters. I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah, he's there. He's just kind of watching things. He's a little cute. He's a little creepy.
Mm-hmm.
But the perfect amount of each.
Yes.
And he is kind of essentially, which makes sense because Halloween is trick or treat. He is basically Krampus and Santa in one. Is the best way to kind of look at him. I think, look, there's a reason why he became the mascot of the film and the franchise, but B, he became an instant popular costume for Halloween. And he became their collector stuff of all sorts of stuff around him. You don't see a lot of Principal Wilkins toys out there. Or,
I want the Principal Wilkins action figure.
me too. With the basement jack-o'-lantern carving playset.
He comes with a shovel.
Yes,
Yeah,
comes with
it's
a
got
shovel.
realistic shovel hitting action. You pull a little lever on his back and it's just whack, whack.
Listen, Warner Brothers, you are missing the boat. You are missing a gold mine on marketing this stuff.
And also give us money for it, thank you.
But also give us money for it. Yes, 100%.
You don't get that for free.
But yeah, I think Sam is a great character. I do really like that. I would not call him evil. He is a full-on serial murderer, but I don't think he's evil because he's simply not bound by the same sort of morality that humans are. I look at it kind of, how's a good way to put it? I'll use a D&D example. So D&D, there are you have everybody who the PCs and normal humanoid races, and then you have those sort of go-betweens between the deities and the player characters and NPCs and stuff, like the Devas or the Solars and the Modrons and all of these sort of extraplanar beings who simply operate on a different morality than everybody else. So they're not evil in any really traditional sense. I would argue they're not necessarily good either. They're just there for a particular, they have a very specific reason. That's Sam to me. Which makes him different than the Freddy Kruegers and the Mike Myers the Michael Myers, because the Mike Myers just make Austin Powers movies and then bad ones like The Love Guru. But the Michael Myerses and the Jason Voorhees, he's not their level of evil. He's just doing what he's there to do, which is protect Samhain.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I can be sympathetic to that notion. So, yeah, I really like him as a character. I think it's sad that we haven't gotten more of him. That's not entirely fair, actually. There have been a few graphic novels set within the Trick or Treat world, which unfortunately I have not ever had the opportunity to pick up, but I would like to. But yeah, he is an icon searching for more places to tell his story, because I think there's a lot with him. Which actually is a fairly good segue into our last question. So like I said in the production notes, Michael Dougherty has a script for a sequel, and he just needs Legendary and Warner Brothers to greenlight it. Legendary, Warner Brothers, greenlight that shit. He said that he's very happy with it and that it maintains the nonlinear storytelling as well as the mix of horror and comedy. Those were two things that he said are essential for him not to sacrifice those aspects of it, because the studio might not necessarily be keen on those. So, Holly, assuming this sequel does happen, what would you like to see in it? Like, which characters would you like to see come back? Are there any horror motifs or monsters you would want to have show up? Anything like that?
So I would like none of the characters to come back except for Sam,
Okay.
because I think it should focus on a new group of characters.
Okay.
I think it's a different Halloween. It's a new group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might have like some little cameos of some characters
Right.
that we've seen, but I don't want it to focus on them. I would like new stories with new characters.
Yes.
Aside from Sam, who is keeping a
Right.
watchful eye on everything.
For sure.
I mean, I would love to have like a Rhonda appearance, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe like Wilkins' son, something like that. But
Yep.
beyond that, I would really like. I want to say the School Bus Massacre was this, because I was going to say more traditional ghost story, but that one was more revenge zombie-ish.
Right.
I would like, and I guess pulling on my own experience, I mean that fabled house in the neighborhood that is supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
like creepy or run down. Not saying my house
Yeah,
was
for
run down
sure.
growing up, but one that has an urban legend like surrounding it. The
Right.
kids that dare each other to go into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
That would be a good one. Right on. Elle, how about you? What would you want to see in a potential sequel, if anything?
So a couple of things came to mind when I was thinking about like this question. I would like to see a take on like Frankenstein's monster,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps something that is like in the like not distant but in the past that has effects on the modern day in terms of the events it's like set up almost like a mousetrap type of thing.
Okay. Yep.
So like
Right
with this
on.
one it was like all the stories were
Right.
contemporary. Whereas, like, I think you could do something interesting with having a story that feels like it's completely out of left field, but sets up so many little things for the others.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I could absolutely see that.
I guess the easiest answer I could think of then is something like the Salem witch trials or something like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a Fear Street 1666-esque. With better accents.
Or Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Autopsy Jane Doe, yep. 100%. Yeah, that would be cool. For me, obviously Sam has to be in it.
Yes.
I'm not saying that I haven't thought about what I want to see out of a Trick or Treat movie for about, I don't know, 10 years or so. Closer to 15, but anyways. But yes, I definitely want to see Sam. I want to see adult witch Rhonda. She doesn't need her own story. But I want to see her. I want to see her as friends with Sam. They had that moment in the first film. I want to see them give each other like, these are two characters who have probably interacted with each other in the last 15 years a few times, so they know each other. They will, they give them a moment of acknowledgement between them. I agree. I want new stories. I would love cameos. I would not mind seeing like older Laurie or something like that. Not as the focus, but like a background or something to that respect. Like I wouldn't necessarily want to see a new werewolf story and it turns out Laurie is the mom of the new werewolf. I wouldn't want anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would be a lot of fun to kind of throw a few of those survivors. The Wilkins kid would be a great notion of a side character or somebody who is now operating in the same capacity that his dad was as a serial killer. But in terms of motifs, I could see a Frankenstein story, something with like a short story version of like a Lisa Frankenstein kind of vibe, because I think Lisa Frankenstein is a film that very much fits tonally with this. Not the Lisa Frankenstein story specifically, obviously. I do want a vampire film, like an actual vampire story, and not a serial killer with vampire fangs, because I am a sucker for a vampire story. And I would kind of like to see something, because the film touches on it a lot. Particularly with Rhonda and with Sam's appearances. But I would like to see, and this can be any kind of like general, any kind of creature or any kind of that sort of motif. But I would like to see a story that delves deeper into, because obviously within the universe of this film, Samhain has some pretty significant spiritual, supernatural connections. I would like to see that explored in a segment, because I think you can do that and still do it in a way that has that kind of subversive, comedic, but still legitimately scary horror stuff. Like, this is one of those, Trick or Treat is very, I feel like, very equally balanced between the horror and the comedy. It's not primarily a comedy film that just has, horror trappings about it. And it's not a horror film that throws in a few laughs here and there, like Scream or something like that. It balances them both very well. And I think you can do that with a story that delves deeper into what Halloween means within this universe. So those are sort of the things that I would be interested in seeing. Whether we'll see any of them, or frankly, even the movie at this point, because Warner Brothers is known for making smart decisions in 2025, although their horror is doing very good this year. I will give them credit for that. Fingers crossed. So before we get into our final assessments of the film, let's talk some related recommendations. Elle, what would you recommend to somebody who found what they liked in this movie?
So, yeah, I had two of them. Both of them TV series rather than movies, just because that's more my experience and wheelhouse.
Right.
Tales from the Crypt / Crypt Keeper, if you want the more kid-friendly version.
Mm-hmm.
Because that does that anthology horror aspect.
And the karmic aspect, too.
And then Dead Like Me.
Okay, yeah.
Because that is... It fits some of the same tone, I think.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, no, both good choices. Holly, how about you? What would you recommend for somebody relating to this?
You said it earlier, so I hope I'm not taking one from you, but I was going to recommend Cat's Eye.
No, you aren't.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay, good.
Cat's Eye is a really good choice.
I would also recommend something like Cabin in the Woods if you want a more comedic feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good choice. that has that exact same balance of horror and comedy. Like, it's very even between them, just like this one. Yeah, no, good choices. I actually only have one. I could go into a bunch of. I will throw out very quickly in terms of anthology stuff. I very strongly recommend most of the VHS films. There's always a bad segment in there, but the good ones are really good. Particularly, I think the last three are very, very good. Are some of the better VHS ones. They are found footage anthology, so if found footage isn't your thing, fair enough. The new one that is coming out in might be out by the time this episode is released. Is actually VHS Halloween, so it will be entirely situated around Halloween. And I've been hearing good stuff about it. But the one that I was specifically going to recommend is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. This is famously the only Halloween film that does not have Michael Myers in it. In fact, there is a scene where the first Halloween is playing on the TV. So, assumedly, within the world of Season of the Witch, the Halloween franchise is a fictional franchise. But they were originally going to have the Halloween franchise become an anthology franchise. But Halloween 3 bombed at the time, and so they were very quickly, we set the expectation that Michael Myers is going to be in this franchise. We need to bring him back, and then he came back and never left. But this also has a very trick-or-treat feel. It feels like very much like it could take place in the same universe. It is directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, and it is set in this town. There's a factory in this town that makes Silver Shamrock makes these Halloween masks. And there is a investigation into by the two lead characters into nefarious stuff going on in the town, and it ultimately what's going on with this Silver Shamrock factory company, and leads to one of the great endings of 1980s horror, and not a happy ending either, which is also in that respect, it's also very similar to Trick or Treat, because you think they kill a lot of kids in this movie. But it is a lot of fun. It is very 80s. I remember hating it originally because it wasn't a Michael Myers Halloween, and it has since become one of my favorites once I realized what it was trying to do. And just a great general Halloween watch. The Silver Shamrock jingle will get stuck in your head. You might even know it even if you've never seen the movie. So yeah, that is, let's talk our final thoughts on Trick or Treat. Elle, what is your final assessment on this one?
So there was some reviewer, I don't know, I can't remember the name, but they said they couldn't think of a single horror fan that wouldn't love this film. And then I'm just like, am I a horror fan? Did I like this? I mean, I think I liked it. Or am I being too harsh? Is this the bar that I should be setting a 5 at and then comparing everything to it? I honestly don't know, but I gave it a 3.5.
I'm going to cut in and say no. I do know people who are first of all, this film is not as much as I love it. This film is not the end all be all of horror movies. And that's that's a weird kind of review by that person, because clearly there are people who don't like it. Sorry. That's just my need to go off on a pretentious real horror fans kind of person. Go ahead. Sorry, you 3.5.
3.5. So I don't. What would I even give it? The razor blades hidden in Three Musketeers.
There you go. Holly, how about you? What is final thoughts on this film? Final rating?
So I do love this film. I think it's a very solid Halloween watch.
Mm-hmm.
That said, my rating would be higher if they didn't unmask Sam, in my
Right.
opinion.
Right.
So I'm gonna give it 3.5 undead school bus children out of 5.
Cool. Yep, legit. I am just a little bit higher. It's a very 2000s film. And I mean that in both good and bad ways. I think every segment is great. When the Krieg one is the one I can say I like the least, that is a high bar because I think it's a very good segment. I think that from the Halloween vibes are strong. I think it manages its horror and its comedy very well. The performances are all great. It does just about everything that I want. If it was a little bit less of its time-ish, I would probably go as high as a 4.5 out of 5 because I don't think it's perfect. There are very, very few perfect movies. But as it stands, I am going to give it 4 big fudge logs out of 5, which is the name of its fake candy bar. Because that's another fun fact. They couldn't actually use the names of actual candy bars because, poison and razor blades and all that stuff. So they just started coming up with goofy names for the candies. One of them was apparently named by one of the people for as a sort of revengeful shot against an ex of theirs. It's something like a big hoe bar or something like that. But yeah, 4 big fudge logs out of 5 for me. So for next episode, Al, what are we going to be covering?
I figure we'll take it back a bit, calm down a little bit, go back to where a lot of stuff began and do Plan 9 from outer space.
Oh boy. I haven't seen this one in a while, but I appreciate its charm in the utter incompetence of it. But yeah, that will be next episode. Until then, you can find us at whatever podcatcher you prefer. We are on Blue Sky and Instagram at Final Ghouls Pod.
You can go to your favorite podcatcher of choice and leave a rating and review. Write that review. Put it on a t-shirt. Go out in public. Experience fear.
That I kind of want to put that slogan on a t-shirt now. Meanwhile, you can find me at JThomas411Mania on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and Instagram.
You can find me at shards@kind.social on Mastodon and Shard System on Letterboxd.
And you can find me at Holly Culp on Blue Sky and Miniature Magic 18 on Instagram.
And you can also find all of us playing role-playing games at Final Show Films on Twitch and YouTube. Elle, what is our horror book survival guide tip for this episode?
If you can, try not to bury pets or loved ones in Native American burial grounds.